going to start off by giving all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah, Quadash. Double honours to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who teach the Bible in 100% truth, and shalom to the hopeful elect of the 12 tribes of Israel, starting with the Negroes, Latinos and Native Americans in the land of North, Central and South America, as well as the speckled bird, Israelite foreigners living amongst the other nations. Shalom to you. Okay, this is regarding the MOTB. I had a little search around, we're in that time, the prophecy of Revelation chapter 13. If you're new to this, if Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai has only recently tapped you on the head, you may ask what the MOTB is, and you have to go to Revelation chapter 13, where we are, verse 16 or verse 15, 16 on down, and then you understand what the MOTB is. But we have to use acronyms and be careful about what we say, because the algorithm will highlight the video and remove it if certain things are said. So we're in that time, and I was just searching, general information. We've been talking about this for a while, and for the last couple of years, I've been talking about the CBDC, Central Bank Digital Currency, and that's basically pretty much what the MOTB is based around. A digital system of buying and selling, and then eventually not being able to buy and sell without using that particular system. So, there are certain things that need to happen. One of those is the CBDC, which is going to spread worldwide and become a standardized thing within each individual nation, and that will help all these individual nations join one world system, which is a digital financial system. So, we're heading in that direction. You have other things. You have Neuralink, the ability to influence the mind and the thinking of the mind, influence, people who are paralyzed, so on and so forth. Certain body functions can be given back to them by implanting the scientific technology within their minds, under their skin. And this all goes into line with the MOTB, Revelation chapter 13. So there's many aspects we've gone into previously, so we're just looking at it now, trying to catch an update. This is the Fine Tech Times. This is dated September the 21st. And this company here, Temenos, delves into world of CBDCs as report reveals digital payment tendencies. And so what they've done, they carried out a particular survey to see where we're at. It says here, a new report from Temenos, the banking platform, has revealed the move to digital is firmly upon us. This is to those that are speaking this truth, breaking down the chapter of Revelation 13 correctly, the MOTB. This type of information, this news is not new to us. We've been saying this for a while, since the events that took place in 2020, 2021. We've seen changes taking place, and this is all, part of gradualism and changing the way we think and forcing the general population to adopt a digital payment system rather than using things like cash. It says here, cash is on the decline, with 24% of US adults admitting to never or rarely using it. A further 58% believe all payments to be digital in the future, in light of increased adoption of digital payments. Temenos is expanding its offering to include central bank digital currency, CBDC wallet capabilities. So, you have, there's a lot of these different types of companies. I'm not going to go into this in too much detail, but there's many different types of companies which are, looking into this digital payment system and developing the way that they do business. the same way that you have all these different nations, individual nations, adopting a form of CBDC themselves, a central bank digital currency, and ultimately, they will all be linked together to make a one world payment system. Looking at Temenos Banking Cloud, it says here the trusted SaaS for 700 plus banks around the world. So Temenos are a company which, that's a lot of banks. They deal with 700 banks around the world. Don't forget this MOTB, the financial change, the digital system is going to be a worldwide thing, a worldwide change. And this event, this particular prophecy is going to affect, all people of, as the scriptures tell you, free and bond, rich and poor. And it's going to affect them, man and woman all around the world. So, these types of companies that work behind the scenes, we know that CBDCs are on the increase. And behind the scenes, you have companies like this Temenos who work from bank to bank. They work as a go-between. So they themselves are looking into this digital system. And they're seeing, obviously, these nations wanting to develop CBDCs. So they're looking into it themselves. And they're saying that's the future. Now, it called them an SaaS. And it says here, in simple terms, software as a service is a software licensing model which allows access to software on a subscription basis using external servers. SaaS allows each user to access programs via the internet instead of having to install the software on the user's computer. So an SaaS is pretty much a service, a software service, and it's somebody, a company that will link other companies. In this particular case, in Temenos, they're dealing with banks, and so they deal with software, and they deal with banks all across the globe. So when they're, going out conducting their surveys, and they're seeing the popular trends, CBDCs are on the increase, they then go to other banks and advise them on how to develop their software, and eventually that all links into one. And this is what we're seeing developed right before your eyes. The technology for the MOTB, the actual thing the size of a grain of rice which goes under your hand, the technology to put under your skin, the scanners, the readers at certain stores and places you go to shop, they already have these facilities there to scan. So, the system can be up and running quite quickly, but, they have to obviously, develop a CBDC around the country in all different nations, and then they have to standardize the way that they work in order for them to work together. So, people like Temenos, they're hot on the heels. And so this is all development of the CBDCs. We're looking at it. I mean, this is Russia, for example. This is dated September the 23rd. Russia's central bank paves way for nationwide adoption of CBDC by 2025. Now, Russia are not part of the beast system. However, this change is definitely coming around the globe, and Russia recognize that. So, as much as they go against the West and America and what they do, they're actually having to develop a CBDC in order to trade with other nations in the East and the Middle East and so on and so forth, because this is something that many countries are adopting. And so, like I say, you have companies like Temenos in the background, and they're going forth developing this whole particular system. I've looked at this particular article here. Now, this is dated from March of this year, so it's about 6 months old, but it does give us an understanding of where we're at. We understand that the digital system is on its way. It will be the MOTB once it's placed under your skin. But up until that point, Certain developments have to be made, so we have to hit certain points. We're not going to just go fall into this MOTB system. Certain things have to happen. First of all, a digital format needs to be created, which is the CBDC. Countries have to develop their own system, and then they have to be able to be interlinked, which is what countries like Temenos do. And once that's all up and running and it's smooth, and they can see that they can make transactions across the globe instantly through this digital system, and they've had a chance to test run it and trial it, then they will have it up and running. That's the time at which you will see things like cash being removed totally. And we've looked at the situation in 2020 and 21, and the chances are, once they got this CBDC up and running as an option of payment around the globe, the chances are they might bring a next situation just like 2020 and 2021, and put people into lockdown, and then that may affect the use of cash. And at that point, then the digital currency might be made mandatory. We have in the pipework for 2025, we have the situation, the thing we had, in 2020 and 21. It's been touted that there is a new variant that's going to hit in a big way in 2025. Obviously, at the minute we're hearing little things here and there, but who's to say a next particular situation that's becomes a health risk is around the corner. And if that happens, while the CBDC is up and running and functionable, they might switch it and say, we've got to cut out cash, and we're giving out tokens and ways in which for you to be funded. Don't forget, during the time 2020 and 2021, people were told to sit at home and not go to work. So government were funding a lot of things. So that could come in effect again with another situation like 2020 and 21 in, say, 24, 25. And if they've got the digital currency up and running, they might say, well, these government benefits are possible, but you have to do it via the digital system. So, we're looking out for the development of this digital system. We want to know when it's up and running in all these different nations. And then we know, we're close to that time where this thing will be implemented. And like I say, this article is March 21. It says that 2023 is already shaping up to be a major year in central bank digital currency exploration. As of March the 1st, 64 countries are in advanced stage of development, and over 20 central banks have launched their pilots, including Brazil, Japan, and Russia. To dive and see, that article that I came to a minute ago explained that Russia have now said that, by 2025, this article here says that at the beginning of the year they were running a pilot. In the previous article that I just brought up, it now shows that by 2025 they actually expect to have the CBDC adopted nationwide, fully functioning, ready to use. So back to this article. So it says, to dive deeper into these countries, follow our CBDC tracker, where we track and update developments in 119 countries, representing more than 95% of the world's GDP. Despite only being 3 months into 2023, obviously this is dated in March, these 18 countries have made significant progress in central bank digital currencies. And so, like I say, you've got Russia, they're in a pilot scheme, and they've been in it for the last 6 months. And now they've come out and announced that they expect to be adopting the CBDC by 2025. So that gives us an eye into maybe that's the time in which this digital currency gets made mandatory. We keep telling you that the return of Yahushua is around the corner. And we say that, within a year, within 2 years, within a matter of months, within 6, 12, 18, 24, 32, 36, Yahushua will return. So, 2025 is not that far when you consider. So updates on these particular countries: Australia, its Commonwealth Bank and the Australia and New Zealand banking group have joined the Reserve Bank of Australia's pilot program to explore use case of the EAUD. They work alongside 12 other financial institutions and payment companies to test their CBDC. Brazil, so Australia testing it at the minute. Brazil, after conducting a closed pilot program, the Central Bank of Brazil says he aims to launch a CBDC in 2024. So Brazil are going to be ready come 2024. Russia, we've learned 2025. Canada, Australia are still in the pilot scheme. Canada 2023 released an analytical note highlighting the importance. So they're not really saying much. China in 2023, China included ECNY in their currency circulation. So Japan have a digital currency already operating within their currency at the minute. And they're ahead of the game. And at the minute, if you go there, you can use the ECNY, which represents 0.13% of cash and reserves held by the central bank. In India, it says here, India's largest retail chain, Reliance Retail, will start accepting payments in digital rupee in stores during its pilot stage. So, India began testing an offline functionality for its CBDC. So that they're in the advanced stages of testing, and some this particular retail store is accepting digital payments. Japan, after completing their proof of concept, the Bank of Japan will begin a pilot program in April to test the technical feasibility of digital yen. Japan will also establish a CBDC forum inviting private businesses engaging in retail payments or related technologies to participate in the discussion. Based on the results, the bank will decide whether to launch a digital currency by 2026. So Japan are dragging their heels. CBDC developments in Japan since 2020. This is the process that they're going through. Paper release. Bank of Japan releases a paper on its approach. 2021, Bank of Japan begins proof of concept phase 1. May 22, proof of concept phase 2. And it says here in February 2023, Bank of Japan said that Japan will decide whether to issue a CBDC by 2026. So they're saying give us till 2026 and we'll decide whether to issue it. They're pretty much dragging their heels, but they're playing the waiting game and they want to see what other nations do. When enough nations adopt it, ultimately they'll have to accept it to go along with the plan in order for them to be able to do business with other nations. In Jordan, the International Monetary Fund released a technical market report of implementing a retail central bank digital currency. The report concluded that a cross-border CBDC would be especially beneficial to Jordan. Kazakhstan, the National Bank of Kazakhstan launched a pilot, so they're running a pilot which is set to run through until 2025. Laos in 2023, Central Bank will start testing a prototype named Digital Lao Kip, the DLAC. And this is what it is. You see, all these nations have all these little acronyms for their own particular CBDC. And then you have a company like Temenos who work, with 700 banks plus nationwide, worldwide. And so they help advise these particular nations and banks on how to set up their CBDC in order to have it functioning with other banks with a set up CBDC across the other side of the planet, so on and so forth. So we're seeing this developing nicely, and some of them are talking 24, 25, 26. Japan are talking 26. Lord willing, this thing set up by late 24. if not early 2025. Montenegro announced that it's pursuing a digital currency in partnership with Ripple, a payment settlement asset exchange and remittance system. In the Philippines, in Jan 23, the Central Bank of Philippines announced that its pilot project, which tests wholesale CBDC, will run until 2024. Russia, we've just read about Russia. They're saying 2025 they expect to have it fully adopted into their economic system. Saudi Arabia, in Jan 23, the Saudi Central Bank announced that it's increasing research into CBDCs with a focus on domestic wholesale CBDC use cases with local commercial banks and fintech partners. So they're still researching in Saudi. Turkey, Central Bank of Republic of Turkey announced that it had successfully executed its first payment transactions using the digital lira. It intends to launch a central bank digital currency in 2023, so Turkey are well underway. UAE, United Arab Emirates, as part of its financial infrastructure, the United Arab Emirates is planning to launch CBDC in hopes to address inefficiencies in cross-border payments and drive innovation domestically. In March, the UAE will explore development and interoperability CBDC framework with the Reserve Bank of India. So the UAE really want to go with this digital system CBDC to make cross-border transactions a lot smoother for them, and they're already linking up with India to see how they can interoperate and what type of framework they can work upon to exchange digital currencies. And this is what, again, back to people like Temenos, what they do, they act like a go-between, and they go around, they carry out surveys, they investigate, they understand where the development's going, then they speak to these particular banks and advise them on what to do and how to do it. And ultimately you end up with all these different banks all around the world with different CBDCs, digital currencies, and they all interlink and operate. And this is a one world system. Don't forget the New World Order. Ukraine, Deputy Prime Minister announced that he will take his salary in e-hryvnia. The Ministry of Digital Transformation initial plan was to start the pilot phase in 2024, but the government is now pushing to launch the pilot in 2023. So Ukraine are trying to fast track that digital currency. The UK, in Feb 23, Bank of England and HM Treasury released a consultation paper outlining the case for a digital pound. The paper concluded that it is too early to decide whether to introduce a digital pound, but that preparation towards the decision is ongoing. And I have actually read, so this is dated in March, and I've read since then that the UK are planning to have a digital currency up and running by 2025. United States, Undersecretary for Domestic Finance Nellie Liang announced the creation of a interagency working group to explore the development of CBDC during a speech at the Atlantic Council. She noted that this group will comprise representatives from the Treasury Department and Federal Reserve, the National Security Council, and other respective government agencies. So, we know ultimately this is going to happen in America, but they're still in the stage of development. Cross-border projects, Project Polaris, the Bank of International Settlements. Okay, so this is a bank that deal with international settlements, innovation hubs. Nordic Centre is launching Project Polaris to explore security and resilience in CBDC systems, as well as on and offline payments functionality. The project will begin with an analytical report on offline payment possibilities for CBDC systems. This is followed by a deep dive event where invented vendors discuss the solutions to potential risks and scalability options for offline CBDCs. So, they're pretty much looking to develop, what they're doing. This Project Polaris. And the interesting thing here is what they're talking about is offline payments. And it's all good having the system up and running and getting a signal and being able to scan to buy and sell. But what happens when you're offline? They're trying to incorporate that within the system. So you've got different types of CBDCs, wholesale and retail. I'm not going to go into the detail of that. But wholesale versus retail, how these 18 countries implementing CBDCs in 2023. So there's two ways in which you can implement it. One is through the retail system, one is through the wholesale system. Buying and selling with other countries, buying in bulk for wholesale. Or you've got retail, people on the street going out and buying and selling. And, some of these countries are just developing one particular part. But a lot of them, as you can see, 9 out of those 18 countries are developing the system or, researching it, piloting the scheme on both sides. So ultimately, this will be what takes over the world. It will be incorporated into the MOTB. And, eventually you'll be asked to take something under your skin to operate this system. It says this Geoeconomic Centre will continue to track CBDC exploration around the world as government and central bankers continue to adopt efficient, resilient and inclusive digital solutions. To stay updated on these developments, follow our CBDC tracker. So back to this CBDC tracker, we've seen these before. This is information that we've been bringing out for a couple of years. And now you have the powers that be, these particular companies involved in these industries. They're talking loud about it, saying this is the next big thing. Another thing, this is all based around biometric system. The prophecy of Revelation chapter 13 is that ultimately the population of the world will be asked to take an electronic device, something that helps them to pay, buy and sell, into the system, and that device will be placed under the skin. And this is what the scriptures are telling you Israelites, you members of the elect, to avoid. Now, so ultimately, what you're looking at there is a mixture of man and technology, where the technology is placed under the skin. And, we're constantly telling you that we're living in a time under an empire, under a people that pretty much use gradualism to, manipulate our minds and to send us into directions as a population without actually realizing it. So at the minute, you've got a lot of talk about biometrics. Having this particular device under your skin to buy or sell will also be a device to read your whereabouts and your certain things going on within your body and your temperature, your heart rate, so on and so forth. So this all comes back to biometrics. And another form of biometrics is facial recognition. So at the minute, for example, in China, they use facial recognition quite a lot. And that's something that's also being talked about and developed around the world. And what you're going to have is you're going to have a gradualism effect. For example, you didn't have an iPhone, and then all the people around you had an iPhone. So you went and got an iPhone. And then all the people around you started to use their fingerprint to unlock their iPhone. So you started to unlock your iPhone with your fingerprint. And eventually the people around you started to use their facial recognition to unlock the iPhone. And ultimately, that propels you into that direction. And they're going to do this with the digital financial system. The idea is to have everybody on this digital system. So you have to prepare them and get them to accept it. So at the minute, we're seeing lots of companies, for example, saying they don't accept cash anymore, especially since 2020 and 2021. And so people can only use credit cards and so on and so forth. But then once these CBDCs get set up, these will be pretty much based around apps and the QR code, the quick response code. So if you want to delve into the world of CBDC, you may have cash, but you want to transfer money in the world of CBDC, central bank digital currency, on the digital platform. So you'll start off by having your iPhone and an app, a quick response code, and you'll be operating off that. Eventually, you'll be using your facial recognition, not just to enter and unlock your phone, but also to use these particular apps, for example. And that's what people like here. This is MasterCard, and this is their developers site, bringing biometric checkout to life. So they're pushing, for example, using them as a means of payment, and them being able to do it for you on a biometric level using your facial recognition. And eventually, when people have these iPhones, it's easy to steal an iPhone. It's easy to lose. And for example, if you have facial recognition, and you need that to enter the system, you need that to enter the hospital for treatment. What happens if you're involved in a horrific car crash and your facial features are disfigured? How will you go into the hospital and scan your facial recognition to receive treatment? So they will think of all these reasons and these excuses in which to place this technology directly under your skin. And with that, that will be your method of payment, a way to read your biometrics, and so on and so forth, and a form of control. So the biometric checkout, this is what it is. It's start off with the use of facial recognition and biometrics and other biometrics, fingerprints, iris scans, to enter into this system and use it. But ultimately, eventually they will say that you have to, the biometric you need is the thing that gets placed under your skin. And once they decide, for example, if they bring a situation like 2020 and 2021 out, if they bring that out again in 2025, then that could be an excuse to stop using cash even further. That previous article explained that in America, only 24% of the population are using cash anymore. So one more scenario like we had in 2020 and 21, one more lockdown scenario. The paper's got disease on it, so on and so forth, propaganda, and that will drive that 24% down to a very minute amount. It could be something less than 10%. So this is them, bringing in the gradualism. And meanwhile, they're manipulating you and getting you to come away from cash. They're also developing this system in the background. This is bringing biometric checkout to life. So biometric checkouts, people are worried about how their details get stored online, for example, in this digital system. And, for example, when you read through this article, MasterCard, we all know MasterCard, they're pretty much, it says here at checkout, all they have to do is wave their hand over a reader or smile into the camera to complete the purchase. So they're saying you use MasterCard's biometric system and you can use it as a form of checkout. They validate it, and people are asking, well, what about my personal details? And they're saying that a token gets created. You enter your details into the system, a token gets created, and that gets stored by the operators of the biometric checkouts, which in this case is MasterCard. And so what they do is, they store that token of you, And every time you enter the system, you enter a store, or you want to make a payment, through the fact that you're linked with MasterCard, they have a token of you. So they show that token every time, and that gives you access to payment, so on and so forth. I'll read a little bit of it here. It says the background, officially launched in May 2022, MasterCard's biometric checkout program is industry's first of its kind innovation that sets the standards, specifications, and certification processes for how payments ecosystem partners can responsibly develop frictionless biometric only checkout solutions that meet the highest level of security, privacy, and customer experience. Globally, 74% of consumers have a positive attitude towards biometric technology, and the market for contactless biometrics technology is projected to reach $18.6 billion by 2026. MasterCard's biometric checkout program is a direct response to evolving needs of cardholders around the world. That time in 2020 and 2021 propelled consumers to rapidly embrace new ways to pay. Okay, this is what we told you at the time. Around the globe, merchants are starting to offer consumers innovative experiences to pay and stay engaged in store. With biometric checkout, biometrics become the new payment form factor. A consumer can smile or wave to pay without the need of a card or mobile anymore. So, they operate in a biometric checkout. Soon you'll have the CBDC up and running in many countries, and you'll be able to use that via the app and a quick response code. Eventually, that will switch to biometric. These apps could ultimately end up operating through biometric facial recognition. And then to make this all secure and safe, stop you losing your phone, eventually they could say, well, look, we take this technology of your phone, this RFID, particular size of a grain of rice technology, and place that under your skin, and with that, you're away, and you fulfill the prophecy of Revelation 13, 16 on down. How does biometric checkout work? In biometric checkout, consumers enroll their payment credentials and biometrics, face or palm, either in-store or at home, through a merchant or biometric provider app. At checkout, all they have to do is wave their hand over a reader or smile into the camera to complete the purchase. Behind the scenes, with consumers scan their biometric, it is matched against enrolled users to confirm their identity. Once matched, the merchant processes the transaction using the computer's tokenized payment credential with the issuer's approval. So, this just goes into breaking down this biometric checkout system. But, all these big companies are on it. This is something that's happening worldwide, involving biometrics, involving digital system, digital payments. And once the CBDCs are up and running in all the countries, we're pretty much good to go. The mixture of these two things happening together, and the development and the gradualization, the talk of facial recognition, biometrics, is all heading us towards the fulfillment of Revelation 13, 15, 16 on down. Now, just before I move on, this particular image here, you see this circuit within this particular person. I mentioned it at the time when the thing was happening, 2020 and 2021, the government were asking you to take that particular, jump shot, that juice. And I explained that, you shouldn't take it, because what it would do is create a particular circuit around your body. And it's, looking at this particular diagram, it reminds me of that, that circuitry that is around your body. This is what these Edomites, Esau wanted to do with that. He put that in you to develop this circuit in which he could use it to ultimately hijack your body from within. If you can put a certain electronic scientific device under your skin, and it will operate alongside that and read your biometrics. And what do we see? A year and a half down the line, we saw people in autopsies, and when they were opened up, they found this particular stringy material inside them. This is the juice they were given ultimately mutated into circuitry. Just like I say, looking at that particular image reminds me of that. So we're heading towards the fulfillment of the MOTB. What you've got to realise, this is all down to psychological warfare, actions intended to reduce an opponent's morale. And we're seeing the cost of living crisis and all the particular crisis that's going on around the world. Humanitarian aid is given out left, right and centre, and people are trying to survive. You've got all these particular issues. You've got people being kidnapped, children going missing, and you've got the crash of the monetary system, de-dollarization. So, what could be the answer to all these things? Electronic input, the electronic device placed within us. But along the way, they're going to gradually bring it upon us with different propaganda. This is all part of that. The psychological warfare pretty much starts with the gradualism and the introduction of the MOTB, the technology and all the things that go with it, the infrastructure, the way that the system is going to be introduced, and the types of propaganda that come with it to manipulate the population. These are all things, in war, it's always helpful to see the enemy coming, and the fact that we have the Spirit on us and that our eyes are open. All praises to Yahweh B'Hashem, Yahweh Shai. We can see the enemy coming with this particular propaganda and all the things with it. Most people in this world, on this planet, they have no idea that they know that we're in the digital age and things are going that way, and but they have no understanding of what it means, what it represents, and what the ultimate, especially these Israelites, what the ultimate punishment is for taking it. The psychological warfare then continues into the time called Jacob's Trouble, when this MOTB gets made mandatory. And then, there'll be many Israelites out here that, know they're Israelites, claim to be of Yahweh B'Hashem, Yahweh Shai, yet Yahweh B'Hashem, Yahweh Shai is not going to give them the spirit to make it through that time of Jacob's Trouble, to resist taking this MOTB, because not being able to buy or sell without that particular device under your skin means you won't be able to buy food to eat. And this is when people, really, you start to see people's true colours. Revelation, this is Revelation 3 and 10. It says, because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I will also keep thee from the hour of temptation, that time of temptation, the time known as Jacob's Trouble. As the MOTB, the device gets made mandatory. At one point, you will have CBDCs, digital currencies, as an option of payment, as well as cash and other things alongside it. But eventually, this app-based CBDC will change to facial recognition, and then into the MOTB itself, the device that goes under the skin. And then when that gets made mandatory, that will be your only way to buy and sell. But it says here, because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I will also keep thee. And that's what it is. You're going to need a special spirit on you to be able to live, while people out here are using it to buy or sell. and to buy food and to live their daily lives, you're going to be at a standstill. Knowing these scriptures, knowing that you're an Israelite, and praying on Yahweh B'Hashim Yahweh Shai to keep you from the time of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth, especially the Israelites. With these other nations, it doesn't really matter. They can take it either way. Judgment is coming their way. But, Israelites out of the nation of Israel, you have the members of the elect starting with 144,000. And these will not bow down to this beast system, and they will not accept that chip in order to be delivered. And they will not receive that technology under their skin in order to stay faithful to Yahweh B'Hashim Yahweh Shai. But like I said, there's a lot of Israelites out here who at the minute have heard this word. They like the idea of being a Hebrew Israelite. Their bloodline does go back to the seed of Abraham, Isaac and Jacob, yet they are not of the elect. So Yahweh B'Hashim Yahweh Shai will not put the Spirit on them to be delivered. Now when you look at the hour or the time of temptation, you look at that word temptation in the Greek, where we have it here. Let's get the pronunciation.
Strong's G 3986, Pyrasmas.
So perirasmos. And you look at the translation, temptation, an experiment, an attempt, trial or proving. And this is Yahweh B'Hashim Yahweh Shai, but in a major prophecy to work on this earth. And the Hebrew Israelites, his children, are going to be tested. And this is an experiment. I mean, you could look at it as an experiment, because trying to pretty much place scientific technology under the skin of everybody under the earth in order to track them and have total control, because that's what these banking elites, this technology, this idea, this MOTB is pretty much the work of the banking elites, those who have control over the governments. And when you look at the idea of what they want to do, it's a well thought out plan. However, it still is an experiment. It's something that's never been done before. But it says here an attempt, trial or proving. And so, if you're a member of the elect, you're going to have to prove yourself to Yahweh B'Hashim Yahweh Shai, call on the names of the Father and His Son, and have the faith that you will be able to eat and survive in that time. Not being able to buy or sell, not taking that particular device under the skin, having the faith on the Most High and His Son to deliver you out of any set troubles through that time, through Jacob's trouble, through the time of temptation, through the time of trial, through the time of proving. Yahweh B'Hashim Yahweh Shai is making an attempt to test you. Esau's coming with it, this crazy scientific experiment. So reading on the descriptions here, it says trial proving, the trial made of you by my bodily condition, since condition served as to test the love of the Galatians toward Paul. And so, in a way, you're, not being able to buy or sell is going to test you physically, test your body. Once hunger kicks in, that's when we find out how much faith you've got. Like I say, there's a lot of people at the minute who, say that they're Hebrew Israelites. They like the idea of the kingdom coming around the corner, and they like the idea of having, a reason as to why they're living in such a low condition. But yet, they're not members of the elect. Maybe they don't go through the scriptures. They don't study. They don't follow any of the laws or commandments or ways of life of being a Hebrew Israelite. They just like the idea of it, and they label themselves as that. These are the type of people that the Spirit is not going to be put upon them to survive, to have the faith through the time of trial, the time of Jacob's trouble, the time of temptation, the time of the implementation of the MOTB. And it says here, the trial of a man's fidelity, integrity, virtue, constancy, and enticement to sin. And you're going to be enticed. There's these governments, the propaganda is going to be, they're going to make it easy for you. Just come in and take this particular device, and all's well. You can go about your business and buying and selling. But ultimately, this is a commandment, from Yahweh B'Hashem Yahweh Shai to the Israelites, to the members of the elect, not to take this particular device. But the psychological warfare is an enticement to sin. This is temptation, whether arising from the desires or from the outward circumstances. There's an eternal temptation to sin, because it's all going to be going on within your mind. You're going to have that psychological warfare. These demons are going to be plaguing your mind. Your woman's going to be telling you, just go and take it. She's going to be screaming at you. The kids are going to be crying. There's no food in the house. And this all comes down to psychological warfare. An internal temptation to sin. It says, of the temptation by which the devil sought to divert Yahweh Shai, the Messiah, from his divine errand. Don't forget, he took him to the top of the mountain and showed him this whole kingdom and everything within it, and offered Yahweh Shai everything, all the fruits and the pickings of this particular kingdom, in order to go against the word of Yahweh. But obviously Yahweh Shai, being Yahweh Shai, he refused. It says, of the condition of things, or a mental state by which we are enticed to sin, or to a lapse from the faith of holiness. And this is what it is. This is what it comes down to. The only way you're going to survive the hour of temptation, the time of Jacob's trouble, the implementation of the MOTB being made mandatory, the only thing that can pretty much get you through is faith, and an abundance of that in the name of Yahweh B'Hashem Yahweh Shai. And like I say, a lot of Israelites at the minute claimed to be of Hebrew Israelite, yet the spirit is not on them. They're not members of the elect. They just it's to them, it's just a new phase, a new thing. Just finish off here. Adversity, affliction, trouble, sent by the Most High and serving to test or prove one's character, faith, or holiness. This is towards the members of the elect. This is temptation, i.e. trial of the Most High by men. Rebellion against the Most High, by which his power and justice are, as it were, put to the proof and challenged to show themselves. And so, these members of the elect, these people, these Hebrew Israelites, they've either heard the word and not taken it seriously, or they've heard the word. I'm talking about Israelites in America, the tribe of Judah and the other tribes. They've either heard this word and not taken it seriously, or they've heard this word and run far from it. These type of Israelites know of the MOTB, know what it is, and think that when it comes time, when the time comes to it, they can avoid it. But it's going to be a lot harder than that. This is going to be the Most High pretty much coming. It says it with his trial. It says here, adversity, affliction, trouble, sent by the Most High and serving to test or prove one's character, faith, or holiness. And only the members of the elect will survive that test and pass it. Before I go, this is 2nd Ezra chapter 5. It says, nevertheless, as coming the tokens, and we're seeing these tokens now. It says, behold, the days shall come, that they which dwell upon the earth shall be shaken in great number. At that time of Jacob's trouble, Matthew chapter 24 refers to it as a time like never been seen, or nor will be on the face of this earth. In terms of trouble, it's also known as the time of Jacob's trouble. It's also known as the time of temptation, when this MOTB is made mandatory. You will not be able to eat, to buy or sell, or to eat without it. And if you're a member of the elect, then your task is to go without it. It says, nevertheless, as come in the tokens, behold, the days shall come, that they which dwell upon the earth shall be taken in great number. It's talking about, the time of Jacob's trouble, as well as the day of the Lord. It says, and the way of truth shall be hidden, and the land shall be barren of faith. And so this is where we're heading. We're living in a time where people have very little faith in the Most High. People are out there living for themselves, living for what they can do it. Ready to step on anyone they can to get where they can. And when we get to the time of Jacob's trouble, it's gonna get real bad, even worse, and a lot of people are gonna have a lack of faith. A lot of these Israelites that are out here, like I say, claiming to be Hebrew Israelites, they are of the seed. The Spirit is not on them. They don't show due diligence to the scriptures and to the understanding, to the laws and commandments. And so that title of Hebrew Israelite will be stripped from them. And come the time of Jacob's trouble, they will have lack of faith. And when that MOTB gets made mandatory, day 1 without food, day 2, day 3, they won't last that long. And like I say, a lot of Hebrew Israelites at the minute, they'd say, yeah, they're not going to take it. They're not going to touch the MOTB. They know what it is. As soon as false flag event gets brought about, and a crisis is in the air, these Jakes will go running. They'll be first in line, first at the queue for this MOTB. And so like I say, if you're a member of the elect, Lord willing, you hope to be, then what you ought to do is to have the faith in Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shai, that you can make it through that time of trial. Before I go, I'll leave you with Job. It's chapter 5. It says, he disappointeth the devices of the crafty. This is verse 12. So that their hands cannot perform their enterprise. So this is speaking of the wicked. And the wickedest of the wickedest is Esau, the Edomites. And the wickedest of the Edomites is the banking elites. And they have a device. It's known as the MOTB, the New World Order, the digitization of the financial system. This is their device of the crafty. So that their hands cannot perform their enterprise. And as soon as they have this MOTB system up and running, as soon as they kick back, feet up on the table, and they think that they've got it implemented, they've got the population right where they want, and those that are refusing to take it are starting to struggle. And that's at the point at which Yahweh Shai will crack that sky, and these devils get taken out of power. So I hope that was edifying. Like I say, I was just going into the MOTB, just trying to look at where we're at. I mean, it could be, 2024, 2025, 2026, somewhere thereabouts. But, Lord willing, it's coming very soon. It's all within a matter of months. And I almost forgot to say, on this particular image, you can peep the message, the one eye, that all-seeing eye, the left eye. So with that, I'm going to leave it right there. Until next time, I'm going to say all praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakak, Kwadash. Until next time, Shalom.